A Pottle of Brains. Once in these parts, and not so long agone neither, there is a fool who was forever getting into scrapes through his foolishness and being laughed at by everyone. Folks told him what he needed was a pottle of brains, and he could get anything he liked from a wise woman who lived on top of the hill and dealt with potions and herbs and spells and things, and could tell thee all that's come to thee thy thy folk. So he told his mother, and asked her if he should seek out the wise woman and buy a pottle of brains. "Ye should," she said. "Thou's sore in need of them, my son, and if I should die, who'd take care of a poor old fool such as thou, no more fit to look after thyself than an unborn baby? But mind thy manners, and speak her pretty, my lad, for these wise folks are gay and light mispleased." So off he went after his tea, and there she was, sitting by the fire, stirring a big pot. "Good'n, missus," says he, "it's a fine night." "Aye," says she, and went on stirring. "Maybe it'll rain," says he, and fidgeted from one foot to another. "Maybe," says she. "Am I warning mad or not?" says he, and looked out of the window. "My lad," says she, and he scratched his head and he twisted his hat. "Well," says he, "I can't mind nothing else about the weather, but let me see, the crops are getting fine." "Fine," says she. And the beast is fattening," says he. "Ar," says she. And says he, and comes to a stop. I reckon we'll tackle the business now. Having done the polite, like, have you any brains to sell?" "That depends," says she. "If thou wants king's brains, or soldier's brains, or schoolmaster's brains, I dinna keep 'em." "Oh, no," says he, "just ordinary brains fit for any fool, same as everyone about has here. Something clean common like." "Aye, so," says the wise woman. "I might manage that, if so be thou'll help it thyself." "How's that for missus?" says he. "Just so," says she, looking at the pot. "Bring me the heart of the thing thou likest best of all, and I'll tell thee where to get thy pottle of brains." "But," says he, scratching his head, "how can I do that?" "That's not for me to say," says she. "Find out for thyself, my lad, if thou doesn't want to be a fool all thy days. But thou'll have to read me a riddle, so that I can see thou'st brought the right thing, and if thy brain is about thee, and if I've something else to see to," says she. "So go unto it thee," and she carried the big pot away with her into the back room. So off went the fool to his mother, and he told her what the wise woman had said. "I reckon I'll have to kill that pig," says he, "for I like fat bacon better than anything." "Then do it, my lad," said his mother, "for certain 'twill be a strange and good thing for thee, if thou canst buy a pottle of brains and be able to look after thy own self." So he killed the pig the next day, and off he went to the wise woman's cottage, and there she sat reading a great book. "Good'n, missus," says he, "I've brought the heart of the thing that I like best of all, and I put it in a hapten paper on the table." "Aye, so," says she, and she looked at him through her spectacles. "Tell me then, what runs without feet?" He scratched his head and thought, but he couldn't tell. "Go thy way," says she, "thou hasn't fetched me the right thing yet. I've no brains for thee today." And she clapped the book together and turned her back. So off the fool went to tell his mother. But as he got nigh the house, out came folk running to tell him that his mother was dying. And when he got in, his mother only looked at him and smiled, as if to say she could leave him with a quiet mind, since he had got the brains enough now to look after himself. And then she died. So he sat down, and the more he thought about it, the badder he felt. He minded how she'd nursed him when he was a tiddy brat, and helped him with his lessons, and cooked his dinners, and mended his clothes, and bore with his foolishness. And he felt sorrier, and he began to sob and greet. "Oh, mother, mother," says he, "who'll take care of me now? Thou shouldn't have left me alone, for I like thee better than everything." And as he said that, he thought of the words of the wise woman. "Why, yea," says he, "must I take my mother's heart to her?" No, no, I can't do that," says he. What I'll do is I'll take that pottle of brains now I'm alone in the world." So he thought, and the next day he went and borrowed a sack, and he bundled his mother into it, and he carried her on his shoulder up to the wise woman's cottage. "Good miss," says he, "I reckon I fetched thee the right thing this time, surely." And he plumped the sack down kerflap in the doorsill. "Maybe," says the wise woman, "but read me this, now. What's yellow and shining but isn't gold?" And he scratched his head, and he thought, but he couldn't tell. "Thou hast not hit on the right thing, my lad," says she. "I doubt that there's a bigger fool than I thought," and shut the door in his face. "See there," says he, and he sat down by the roadside and greets. "I've lost the only two things I cared for, and what else can I find to buy a pottle of brains with?" And he fair howled till the tears ran down into his mouth. And up came a lass that lived near at hand, and she looked at him. "What's up with thee, fool?" says she. "Oh, I've killed my pig and lost my mother, and I'm nobbut but a fool myself," says he, sobbing. "That's too bad," says she. "Haven't thee anybody to look after thee?" "No," says he, "and I cannot buy a bottle of brains, for there's nothing I like best left." "What are thou talking about?" says she. And down she sits by him, and he told her all about the wise woman and the pig and his mother and the riddles, and that he was alone in the world. "Well," says she, "I wouldn't mind looking after thee myself." "Could thee do it?" says he. "Aye," says she. "Folks says as fools make good husbands, and I reckon I'll have thee if thou are willing." "Canst cook?" says he. "I can," says she. "And scrub?" says he. "Surely," says she. "And mend me clouts?" says he. "I can that," says she. "I reckon thou'll do then as well as anybody," says he. "But what'll I do about this wise woman?" Wait a bit," says she. "Something may turn up. It'll not matter if thou are a fool, so long as thou's got me to look after thee." "That's true," says he, and off they went and got married. And she kept his house so clean and neat, and cooked his dinner so fine, that one night he says to her, "Lass, I'm thinking I like thee best of everything after all." "That's good hearing," says she. "And what then?" "Have I got to kill thee, thou thinks, and take thy heart up to the wise woman for a pottle of brains?" "La, no," says she, looking scared. "I wouldn't have that. But see here, thou didn't cut out thy mother's heart, did thou?" "No, but if I had, maybe I'd have gotten my pottle of brains," says he. "Not a bit of it," says she. "Just thou take me as I be, heart and all, and I'll wager I'll help thee read the riddles." "Can thee so?" says he, doubtful like. "I reckon they're too hard for womenfolk." "Well," she says, "let's see now. Tell me the first." "What runs without feet?" says he. "My water," says she. "It'll do," says he, and he scratched his head. "And what's yellow and shining but isn't gold?" "Why, the sun," says she. "Faith, it be. Come, we'll go to the wise woman at once." And off they went, and as they came up the pad, she was sitting at the door, twinning straws. "Good un, missus," says he. "Good un, fool," says she. "I reckon I fetched thee the right thing at last," says he. The wise woman looked at them both and wiped her spectacles. "Canst tell me what that is that has first no legs, and then 2 legs, and then ends with 4 legs?" And the fool scratched his head and thought, but he couldn't tell. And the lass whispered in his ear, It's a tadpole. "M'happen," says he then. "It may be a tadpole, miss." The wise woman nodded her head. "That's right," says she, "and thou hast got thy pottle o' brains already." "Where be they?" says he, looking about and feeling his pockets. "Right behind you," says she, "in your wife's head."